is a presentation of William Peace University Athletics. From downtown Raleigh, galloping across North Carolina, and stampeding around the world, the Pacers Sports Network is on the air. This is WPU basketball on the Pacers Sports Network. Here's your voice for Pacers basketball, Darren Vaught.
From downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, Darren Vaught here with you on the Pacers Sports Network. Sorry about the delay getting on air. A couple of technical difficulties, but we are rocking and rolling for our first broadcast of 2016. Hope you had a great holiday season. Good New Year celebration as we, on the 2nd of January here, look to play the last non-conference game before the Pacers of William Peace University get right into the thick of USA South Conference play here at the Herm today. They welcome the Washington and Lee Generals of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. Washington and Lee in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So the Pacers currently sitting at 5 wins and 5 losses each, and actually they've played over 3 times as many, or over twice as many rather, ODAC games than the ODAC team themselves in Washington and Lee. So I mentioned 5 and 5, exactly half of the Pacers games so far they've played this season against ODAC schools, and they sit at 3 wins, 2 losses in those contests. Washington and Lee, meanwhile, 6 and 3 overall, 1 and 1 in the ODAC. Contrary to the Pacers, the Generals on a 2-game winning streak, as the Pacers on a 2-game losing streak, though both of those were at the Luckstone Holiday Tournament in Farmville, Virginia, at Hampton-Sydney College a couple of weeks ago. And so I mentioned William Peace getting right into USA South Conference play following this contest. As a matter of fact, they go to Greensboro on Wednesday the 6th. That's this Wednesday. And then at Piedmont College on the 9th, and at Averett in Danville, Virginia on the 13th. And then, of course, we'll have the doubleheader here, both men's and women's teams playing Covenant College on the 15th here at William Peace University. But your Pacers will be 3 conference games into the schedule at that point, and we're about a minute from tip here. As I mentioned, Darren Vaught with you here on the Pacers Sports Network. We apologize for the delay getting on the air, but this one should be a very competitive matchup. Washington and Lee, a couple of players in double figures so far this year. They've got a freshman in Clayton Murtha out of Dallas, Texas, scoring 16.9 points per game, along with junior Andy Kleinlein with 12.3 per game. And as mentioned, this should be very competitive games. I think these teams match up very well athletically, pound for pound. The Pacers, were shooting the ball very well during warm-ups. But we're going to take a quick break before the tip. It's Washington and Lee at William Peace here on the Pacers Sports Network. Stay with us.
You, my friend, have connections in the government. 1-800-FED-INFO, the official source for all government information. And like any good connection, there's no telling where it can take you. Why, one day you're getting student loan information, next thing you know, you need job hunting tips. So whether you have information to get or ideas to give your government, call 1-800-FED-INFO. Who knows? Money-saving tips today could lead to retirement planning tomorrow.
The world's future rests in the hands of our young people. Internationally, today's youth are involved at an earlier age, participating in programs for the betterment of their communities. Still, guidance is needed. Lions Clubs International urges you to take the time to be a mentor in your community. Through your help, tomorrow's leaders are guaranteed the skills needed to get the job done. This message brought to you by Lions Clubs International. We serve.
This is William Peace basketball on the Pacers Sports Network.
So with the national anthem now in the books, starting lineups being announced. Thanks for joining us here on the Pacers Sports Network. Darren Vaught with you with the call here at the Herm as Washington and Lee, the Generals, come to visit your William Peace Pacers. And we're looking at the starting lineups here for Washington and Lee. It's going to be the junior point guard Andy Kleinlein, number 21. 22, Darren Douglas, a senior guard out of Elmsford, New York. Number 24, Andrew France. He's a senior. 6'5", 215 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Nicholas George, the swingman sophomore out of Charleston, West Virginia. And then the Generals' leading scorer, Clayton Murtha. I mentioned the first-year player out of Dallas, Texas. He attended Highland Park High School. And then for your William Peace Pacers, not a ton of change as what you're probably accustomed to hearing so far this season. The senior point guard Terry Rogers out of Durham, North Carolina starting, as well as Ryan Emfinger, the junior out of Roseboro, North Carolina. Number 24, Chris Thomas, the junior out of Holly Springs, North Carolina, leads the team in points, rebounds, steals, as well as blocks, although he's tied for blocks. So a very important piece of the Pacers puzzle in Chris Thomas. He leads the team in minutes played this season as well. Then there's the senior Nate Strother, the sharpshooter out of Wilson, North Carolina. And then Dakota King, freshman big man from Elkin, down low, holding things down for the Pacers. And I don't think I mentioned in the pregame, this Washington and Lee team, 6-3 overall, but as a matter of fact, they're actually yet to win a true road contest so far this season. They are 1-1 in neutral site games, 0-1 in true road games. So this being a very tough place to play at William Peace in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, should be a pretty tough test for the Generals. A good team, though, most of their wins coming at home. They're 5-1 when they play in Harrisonburg. So the Pacers donning their white uniforms, green and black trim. The Generals in a royal blue with white trim, as King and Murtha will get set to tip things off. The tip is up. It's won by Murtha, and it goes into the hands of Kleinlein, the point guard for the Generals. They swing it to the right side, now back up top. A lot of movement early on for the Generals, and they've got it to Murtha at the elbow. Swinging it around on the right side is George. Nicholas George on the wing. Hands it off. Now they go underneath the Kleinlein. Kleinlein way overmatched. He had both Rogers and King doubled up on him. And a little bit of movement with his pivot foot. So Kleinlein will be charged with the traveling violation, and the ball goes back to the Pacers. Rogers across the timeline. Goes to the left wing to Nate Strother. Strother nearly mishandles it, but regains it right at midcourt. And we'll give it back to Rogers to run the offense. Rogers defended by Kleinlein. Gets a pick from King. Loses his handle and goes out to Strother. Up top now is Chris Thomas. Pump fake. Gets his man in the air. Drives, and a nice move with the double pump fake. On the layup is 2 for Chris Thomas. On the other end, all the way down the court, they get it to Darren Douglas through the Generals. His layup attempt is no good, and it goes out of bounds off of Washington and Lee. So that will go back to William Peace, as the Pacers lead it 2-0, 19:03 to play here in the first half. Rogers dribbles behind his back very casually as he comes across midcourt for the Pacers. Tries to cross up Kleinlein. Nobody there. Goes up top. It's Thomas. Thomas to the left wing is Strother off back of the rim. No good. Boarded by Kleinlein, and the Generals have it on the other end. Back up top to Murtha. Murtha goes to Nicholas George. Inside, the pass is smacked away, but regained by George. Goes inside to Murtha. Murtha out to a wide-open Kleinlein, whose 3 is no good. Board in the putback from Andrew France, and France misses it, but he's going to be fouled from behind, as the foul is charged to Ryan Emfinger. And France will go to the line to shoot 2 free throws. 18:30 to play here in the first half, as France hits the first and puts the Generals on the board. France just a 60% shooter from the free throw line entering today's contest, but he's 2 for 2 in that trip, and it's knotted at 2. As Rogers hustles across midcourt for the Pacers. Gets a pick from King up top. Goes right side and hands it off to Chris Thomas. Thomas fakes right, goes left, handoff to Strother. Strother for three. Ugly shot as it's off the back of the rim. Now 0 for 2 is Nate Strother. And the rebound goes down to Washington and Lee. Kleinlein on the left wing now. Wants France up top, barely gets the pass out to him, and now they swing it around to George on the right wing. George drives on Chris Thomas, kicks it left corner now as Kleinlein to Murtha, and a nice spin move, puts him around his defender King. Easy layup for two for the leading scorer for Washington and Lee, and now the Generals lead it 4-2. Terry Rogers, some trouble getting through the defense, although he drives right side. Spin move and puts up the layup. It's no good, and there's a call. Looked like maybe a travel will give the ball back to the Generals with 17:41 to play in the first half as the Pacers enter a full-court press. Looks like they tried to trap the entry pass down in the corner and then went man-to-man, so relatively easy to break as long as you can get that inbound pass in. Kleinlein on the left wing, goes up top to George. George swings it. It's on the right wing now is Murtha. Murtha drives and goes to the left side now, and the three-point shot is no good from George. And on a rebound attempt between France of the Generals and Empfinger of the Pacers, it's swatted out of bounds and will go back to William Peace. As Strother checks out, in comes Sam Johnson, the first-year player out of Havelock, North Carolina, for William Peace University. King inbounds the ball to Rogers in the backcourt with 17:12 to play here in the first. Hands off to Empfinger in the corner. Empfinger goes down to the block where he's got Chris Thomas. Thomas backs down his defender and kicks it out to Empfinger. Empfinger pump fake, gets his defender in the air, puts up the floater in the lane, and it's no good. Murtha with the rebound for the Generals. And an overhead pass gets it to about midcourt with Kleinlein. And now they'll give it over to the left wing. Up top now is France. France defended by Empfinger. Puts it up off the backboard. No good, but he swats it out to George, his teammate. George returns the favor and goes back inside to France, who lays it in. Tough bucket as he was bodied up by Empfinger for two, and the Generals lead 6-2. Terry Rogers in for the Pacers. Gives it to Sam Johnson, who dribbles up top and hands off to Empfinger. Empfinger nowhere to go, so he's got Rogers to bail him out. And Rogers will start the offense with just about 8 seconds on the shot clock. Taking his time, though, goes left corner, and it's Dakota King for three. That one rolls in and out. No good. Some light coverage by Murtha defensively there as Kleinlein goes coast to coast on the other end, puts a nifty spin on it, and gets it to come off of the bottom of the backboard to roll in for two. It's 8-2 Generals. 15:52 to play here in the first as Rogers has some trouble at the top of the defense, a help defender in France. He barely got around him. As Rogers now with the ball drives, loses his footing, but gets it out to Sam Johnson. Johnson pump fake, drives, puts it off the top of the glass and in. And Johnson is fouled as well. So 2 points for the freshman and a chance at another with the potential three-point play here, and that sends us into our first media timeout with 15 minutes and 37 seconds to play here in the first half. It's 8-4. Washington and Lee off to a hot start against your William Peace University Pacers here at the Herm. I want to remind you to stay tuned for our halftime interview. Patrick Johnson sat down with Fred Ammons a little earlier, late in 2015, during the weekend of the Jackie Ammons Memorial Tournament. So it's 8-4 Washington and Lee. As this one off to a very quick start, as they typically are here at the Herm. Very fast-paced basketball, always the case here at William Peace University. And a few missed three-pointers from the Pacers. Not a good look early on for them. They rely heavily on the three-point shot. 0 for 3 from deep so far in this one, 2 of which from Nate Strother. Those are 2 that you typically like to hit, as they're only all-conference player returning to the team from last year. Lives and dies by the three-point shot. The other miss, Dakota King, of course, down in the corner. I think that was more of a factor of the shot clock running out, and he was wide open, so they needed a good look at a shot attempt as we break the huddles out of the media timeout with Sam Johnson approaching the free throw line. Johnson, 4 of 9 in free throw attempts this season, so not a ton of attempts as he buries that one and brings himself to 50% from the stripe this season and makes it a 3-point game. Again with the full court press come the Pacers, and it's easily broken by Washington and Lee. They had numbers, and it was a wide open layup for Devin Kearns for the Generals, but no good. On the other end, the Pacers get it to Strother on the left wing. Strother fakes the three-point attempt and gets it to Chris Thomas. Thomas battling down low with Murtha rather. Puts a spin move on him into the lane, puts it up, and it barely rolls in, so that's 2 for Thomas, and he'll get a chance at another as Murtha is called for the foul. So a couple of tough buckets for the Pacers, and all of a sudden the momentum has shifted their way as it's 8-7. Thomas with a chance at the line to tie it up, and it's off front of the rim and no good. 15-12 to play in the first. Kearns in transition has a wide open lane. Nobody was there to stop the ball and gets an easy layup for 2. It's 10-7. Jalen Vince, newly checked into the game for the Pacers, goes up top to Chris Thomas. Thomas down underneath to Corey Anderson, who also just checked in. And they go back up top. It's Vince to run the offense. Vince on the left wing, defended by Kearns. Hands off to Sam Johnson. Johnson for 3. And he hits it. 11-10, a 1-point lead for the Generals as Kearns brings it across midcourt. Washington and Lee tossing it around the perimeter here. Hand off to Murtha as it's a give and go with he and Kearns. Kearns tries to get the pass back inside, and it's batted away by a piece defender and out of bounds. So Washington and Lee with an inbound pass underneath their own basket upcoming. And a correction to the score from earlier. It's actually tied at 10, 14:31 to play as the inbound pass goes to Kleinlein. Kleinlein drives left side and over the outstretched arm of Corey Anderson, gets it to fall. 12-10, a 2-point lead for the Generals. Vincent Anderson in the backcourt for Peace. They go to Johnson on the right side. Johnson drives baseline, tries a pass to the left corner, but it's picked off. Kearns in transition, bounces it underneath to Murtha. Murtha with some contact, puts it up, no good, but a foul will be called, so Murtha will go to the line to shoot 2. And it looks as if that one is going to be charged to Chris Thomas of the Pacers. Thomas's first, the 3rd team foul for the Pacers so far here in the first half. Murtha, as I mentioned before, tip leads the Generals in points per game with 16.9 as he hits his first free throw and makes it 13-10. And Murtha, a 69% shooter from the stripe, misses his second. But we've got a lane violation on the Pacers, so he'll get another shot at it. 13-10, 14:07 to play here in the first half as Murtha gets a mulligan on the second of 2 free throws, and he hits that one. 14-10. Jalen Vince at the NCAA logo on the right side of the front court. Fakes a pass up high, goes underneath with a bounce pass to Strother. Out to King. Another 3-point attempt, no good, but boarded by the Pacers. Vince, spin move in the lane, floats it up there, but no contact with the rim. It hits bottom of the backboard and is rebounded by Kearns, and the Generals with it on the other end. Pass it, and it looked to be kicked out of bounds by the Pacers. So Washington and Lee again with the ball underneath their own basket. This time 14-10 is their lead. 13 minutes, 42 seconds to play here in the first. Quick pass to Murtha in the corner, and he hits the long 2-point shot, rattles in. And it's a 6-point lead for the Generals. Jalen Vince running the offense for the Pacers. leads the team in assists. They swing it around and up top to Ryan Emfinger. Shot rolls off the back of the rim and rebounded by Washington and Lee. That was Joe Sherwood. On the other end, Kearns a long two. Buries it nothing but net over his defender and makes it 18-10. Washington and Lee, 13:06 to play in the first half. As Ryan Emfinger looking inside for an inlet pass from the right wing. It's batted away and nearly goes into the basket as it's rebounded by Kearns for the Generals. And Kearns pulls out in the front court, goes underneath to Sherwood. Sherwood D'd up by Anderson and just rams him to the basket. And it looked like he may have even shuffled his feet there, but no call, and the basket is good for Sherwood. And it's a 10-point lead. Washington and Lee now doubled up on the Pacers. Jalen Vince drives to the basket and has his pass knocked away. Heads up defense there by Darren Douglas to get a hand on it. And the Pacers will toss it in from their own sideline. Right in front of the Washington and Lee bench as Terry Rogers triggers it in. His pass is picked off for the Generals, and a one-handed slam on the other end of the floor. It's Roy McMillan, the freshman out of Raleigh, North Carolina. This is a bit of a homecoming game for him. Gets his first bucket of the contest, and it's 22-10. All the momentum siding with Washington and Lee to this point. Emfinger driving for Peace. Underneath from the block. His shot attempt is no good. In transition, it's Darren Douglas. Douglas finds a streaking Sherwood. Sherwood again looked to shuffle his feet there. No call, as his pass is smacked away by a Peace defender, and it goes out of bounds at the baseline. So Washington and Lee again with an inbound pass from underneath their own basket. They get it to Kleinlein in the left corner. He's defended by Emfinger, now trapped by Emfinger and King. Gets a pass out to Sherwood, though. Sherwood trying to back down King, his defender. Kicks it out to the right side of the court, and it's Douglas for a long three. No good. Rebound by Andrew Franz. His shot attempt no good. Gets his own board, and as he goes up for a second try, is fouled, so he will go to the line to shoot two. And that foul for the Pacers called on Corey Anderson. It's his first. As we head to the 12-minute media timeout, 11 minutes, 47 seconds to play here in the first half. 22-10. As in between these timeouts, in a short 4 minutes, a 12-point lead is gained for the Generals, and really just active hands on defense and a great effort defensively turning into points on the offensive end. That's sort of highlighted by Roy McMillan, the freshman for the Generals out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Picked off the pass from Terry Rogers, normally very careful and cautious with the basketball, as he's the starting point guard for this Pacers team. But McMillan picks it off at the top of the key and takes it all the way down to the Generals' basket and threw down a monstrous one-handed jam. And I mentioned before, Tip, this is a very tough place for opposing teams to play. And it has been loud thus far here at the Herm, but it's clearly not affected the Generals so far. As we break the huddles, it's, again, 11 minutes, 47 seconds to play here in the first half. And we begin the resumption of play with Andrew Franz at the free throw line to shoot two, as he buries the first and makes it 23-10. His second is up. High arching free throw goes in for another, and it's a 14-point lead for the Generals. Rogers gets across court, hands it off to Emfinger on the left corner. Over to Thomas for three from the left wing, no good. Long rebound by Terry Rogers. And he pulls out to run the offense again for the Pacers. New shot clock as he goes left side to Thomas. Thomas goes right to Taekwon Nolan. Nolan checked into the game following the media timeout. As now it's Emfinger on the left wing. Swinging around, Sam Arnold hands off to Rogers. Rogers drives, clears up the lane, and gets it to a wide-open Chris Thomas. Thomas, a little bit too much hesitation there, as he was open as he received the pass. And there's going to be a foul call in the backcourt after the rebound is obtained by the Generals. Foul charge to Sam Arnold as Taekwon Nolan checks out for the Pacers. In comes Sam Johnson. A 14-point lead as Kleinlein slowly makes his way up the court for the Generals. He gets it to Douglas and gets it right back. Now they've got it in the left corner as Sherwood. Up top, Kleinlein. They swing it around the perimeter trying to find something underneath. Kleinlein decides to take the three from up top, though, and it's good. Nothing but net. And now a 17-point lead as all the way across the court, Rogers hustling, puts up the layup off of the high glass for two. So the Pacers answer there with a 2-point basket, and it's a 15-point deficit as the Generals lead at 27-10. George on the right wing goes up top to Sherwood. Sherwood fakes the shot and goes to the left wing to Kleinlein. Kleinlein hands it back to Sherwood, and Sherwood drives on the right block on Sam Arnold and puts it in for two. 29-12 as Rogers hands it off to Thomas with 10 minutes to play. Thomas picks up his dribble at the elbow, wants Sam Johnson to cut back door, but doesn't get it, and they go up top again to Rogers. Rogers drives left side, puts it up, again falling as he shoots. This time he's going to get fouled, and the shot rolls out. But we're at 9:59 to play here in the first half as Rogers will go to line to shoot two. His first trip to the stripe today. Rogers, 2 points so far as he's 1 of 1 from the field. Rogers shoots 76% from the free throw line entering today's contest as he buries the first. Clayton Murtha checks back in for the Generals. Corey Anderson back in it for the Pacers. Rogers' second is up and good. So a 15-point game, 29-14 Generals lead as Kleinlein with the ball across midcourt. He goes to the right wing. It's Clayton Murtha. Murtha goes to the top of the circle there where he's got Sherwood. Sherwood hands back off to the point guard to run the offense. Back on the block to Sherwood. Out to Kleinlein. Kleinlein thinks about a three, instead goes to Murtha. Murtha spin back move and puts up the shot. Good defense by Corey Anderson there to force the miss, and the ball back to the Pacers as Chris Thomas rebounds. Gets across midcourt, thinks about a shot, and goes back out to Rogers to run the O. Thomas up top. Back to Rogers on the left wing. Thomas sets a pick for Sam Johnson. Johnson not able to get a three-point shot off. Instead goes to Empfinger on the right wing, and his three's no good. Rebounded by Sherwood, and here come the Generals. Kleinlein switches directions on his defender, drives right side, and kicks it out to George. George has it knocked away and nearly stolen by Empfinger, but it looks like not a foul. But it was knocked out of bounds by Ryan Empfinger, so the ball goes back to Washington and Lee. 9:03 left in the first. 29-14, a 15-point lead for W&L. Inbound, received by Kleinlein as they go swinging it to the left side is George for a long three, rattles out. The rebound pulled in by Murtha, and that looked like it should have been a foul. Coach Claude Shields for William Peace is confused by that one. So Murtha put the shot back up, and it went in, but the shot, Coach Shields arguing that the shot should not count, as Anderson had position and was boxing out Murtha. Murtha had to leap over top of him to get the rebound, but the shot is called good. Murtha will look to complete the three-point play, and he does not. It's off the front of the rim, and the rebound knocked out of bounds by Washington and Lee as Dakota King had a hand on it. So 29-14 as Rogers comes across midcourt for the Pacers. Gets a screen from Anderson, takes a long two, no good. Tip-in attempt, no good from Anderson, but a long rebound by Rogers as he tries to save it from going out of bounds. No need for that, though. There's a foul called on Darren Douglas. And a lot of grit so far from Terry Rogers III, the point guard for the Pacers. He's been on the floor probably 4 or 5 times so far. Willed his way to a few buckets as he receives the inbound pass and drives right side. Kicks it back out, and Sam Johnson with a contested 3. No good. Rebound pulled in by France, and the Generals have it again. 8:25 left in the first, 31-14. Washington and Lee leading over your William Peace University Pacers. George kicks it over to the right wing. It's France. France with an odd release on that shot. A lot of rotation. It's no good. Doesn't even get rim, and it's boarded by Terry Rogers. So the Pacers now with it. They give it to Sam Johnson. Running a weave play up at the top of the key, and they hand it off to Strother. Strother drives, puts it in for 2, and is fouled. And that was Jim Etling, the senior for the Generals, trying to draw the charge. But he couldn't quite set his feet in time as Strother gets the bucket to go and the foul. And it's now 31-16. 8:03 to play in the first. Strother, 63% from the free throw line so far this season as he hits it all net and makes it a 14-point game. 31-17 with just over 8 to play in the first half. Kearns across the timeline for the Generals. On the right wing now is George. They swing it around. It's France on the left side now. Up top to George again. Etling now has it at the elbow. He goes all the way to the left corner to France. France pump fake, drives, kicks it out to Etling for 3. The big man with a nice-looking shot, but it's no good. Didn't know he had that in his arsenal. Rebounded by Dakota King, and on the other end, they get it across to Strother. Strother's layup attempt no good, but a strong board by King, but he has it stripped away by Etling. And the Generals get it into the front court now. Kearns tries an entry pass, and it's picked off. First it was Vince to get a hand on it and into the hands of Corey Anderson. Now Vince running things on the other end. Drives right side, cutting Corey Anderson wide open. Puts it in for 2 off of the glass. 13-19. William Peace down by 12. As Washington and Lee with the ball, it's the point guard Kleinlein on the right wing. They swing it around. George wide open on the left wing for 3, and that one's good. 34-19, just under 7 minutes to play in the first half. As the Pacers really struggling to stop Washington and Lee defensively. Strother has it. Crosses up his man George, drives, and is bodied up by France that time. Not quite sure if he got the shot off, but if he did, Strother will go to the line to shoot 2 free throws. And it appears as if he will as we enter the media timeout. This is technically the 8-minute media timeout, but we're at 6:39 to play in the first half. 34-19. Washington and Lee leads it here on the road at the Herm at William Peace University. Pacers trail by 15. 6:39 to play here in the first half here on the Pacers Sports Network. And Pacers fans, we want to remind you, William Peace University and the women's basketball team are asking you to join Scott's team. It's an initiative to raise funds and awareness in the area of suicide prevention. The Pacers women's basketball team is partnering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention by asking you to donate and become a member of Scott McClure's team. More details available at afsp.donordrive.com/Scott's team. And that will be a huge focus for the women's game against Meredith College on February 13th. So certainly a worthy cause there to help raise awareness and prevent suicide. As we come out of the media timeout, it's 34-19. Washington and Lee on top of your William Peace University Pacers. 6 minutes, 39 seconds to play in the first half as Nate Strother makes his way to the free throw line. And he'll get 2 shots. Strother 1 of 1 from the stripe so far. Puts up the first, and that rolls in after hitting the front of the rim. So that makes it a 14-point game. As Strother, now with 4 points on the contest, he hits the second and leads all Pacers in scoring with 5 now. And it's 34-21. Kearns in the front court. Has his pass picked off by Jalen Vince. Vince, looking up ahead, tried to get a pass to Ryan Emfinger, but as he was getting ready to throw it, detected that it would not have been successful. It probably would have been picked off by a defender. So instead he picked it up and tried to sell it as he continued his dribble, but the double dribble gives the ball back to Washington and Lee. Kearns running things for the Pacers again as his pass knocked away and picked off by Dakota King. King can't reel it in, though, and it's back to Kearns. Kearns goes underneath to Sherwood, whose shot is in and out, rebounded by Emfinger, and here come the Pacers. Emfinger looking up court, surveying the scene. Hesitation and drives on his defender Kleinlein. Kicks it to the left wing, and Strother. Not a great pass, so Strother not able to catch it cleanly and put up a shot. They go to right now is Jalen Vince. Vince inside to Dakota King. They have to go back up top to Emfinger to run the offense. Strother on the left wing, defended by Kleinlein. Fake jab step to the right. Three-point attempt is no good. And rebounded by Sherwood. So Washington and Lee again with it in a 13-point lead. Sherwood up top. Hands off to George. Anxious defense by Emfinger. Causes George to alter his shot at the top of the key. It's no good. Rebounded by Vince, and the Pacers in transition now. Hands off to Emfinger. Emfinger, no three-point attempt there, and he gets it back to Vince. Up top now, Chris Thomas for three. Deep three is off the back of the rim, boarded again by Sherwood for the Generals. Sherwood, 4 rebounds to his name in this contest. Now Murtha has it for the Generals on the block. Spinning around Chris Thomas. His first attempt, no good. Gets his own board and puts it up. And it's a foul call. So Murtha will go to the line to shoot 2. And here's head coach Shields for William Peace again. A bit perplexed by the foul call, so he wants an explanation. The foul was charged ultimately to Dakota King. It's his first personal, as Murtha with a chance for 2 more. He's 2 of 3 from the stripe so far. Very wide stance and a quick release at the free throw line as he hits the first. So Murtha now with 9 points to his credit. He leads all scorers, as it's a 35-21 contest. Washington and Lee ahead of William Peace with just under 5 minutes to play in the first half. Murtha gets his second to go, and it's 36-21. Rogers pushing the tempo for the Pacers. Hands off to Strother, who drives right side, gets the shot up. No good with some contact. It's off the front of the rim and rebounded by Sherwood. Sherwood with his 5th rebound. On the other end, it's Darren Douglas in transition, puts up the layup. He was very sneakily cutting to the basket on the baseline there. Anderson had to recover, didn't get there quite in time. So as Douglas hit the shot, Anderson commits the foul, and Douglas with a chance at a 3-point play. 38-21 is our score, as a few substitutions for William Peace make that a new 5. It's going to be Jalen Vince, Sam Johnson, Tyquan Nolan, Trey McLean, and Maurice Kennedy, who sees his first minutes of the game. So a very small lineup here for William Peace, as Douglas completes the 3-point play, and it's 39-21. Vince on the left wing. Pacers really looking to speed up the tempo here. Johnson on the right wing, drives, tries to get a pass outside to Vince, and it's picked off by McMillan. McMillan with the outlet pass has it stolen by McLean, and McLean with the layup attempt. Good recovery defense by McMillan, and he swats it off the glass. Washington and Lee now with it, as it's Darren Douglas. Douglas on the left wing, goes inside to Sherwood. Sherwood spin move, and now they call the travel. So Sherwood with the turnover. I mentioned the first few times he's tried to put the ball on the floor, he's looked like he's anxious and shuffling his feet, but no call so far. The Pacers get the turnover out of him there, and it's an 18-point deficit. Pacers get it to Sam Johnson up top. He's right at the edge of the midcourt logo. Goes to the left corner. Jalen Vince defended by McMillan. Vince drives right side. Out to Nolan. Nolan pump fake and kicks it back out. Washington and Lee playing some good defense. 5 on the shot clock as Kennedy puts it up. The floater in the lane, no good. Vince got a hand on the rebound, but it bounces off of his knee and into the hands of the Generals. Now McMillan drives, kicks it outside to Kleinlein. Kleinlein hands off to Sherwood, and they go back to the right side, and then McMillan. Kleinlein regains it up top and will reset the offense. They go underneath to Sherwood. Sherwood backing down Nolan. Much undersized Taekwon Nolan. Lays it off of the glass. A pretty move by Sherwood that time, and he puts it in for 2. It's a 20-point lead for the Generals. McLean driving right side on the other end. Puts it over the outstretched arm of Murtha for his first points of the contest. Kleinlein underneath to Sherwood, and Sherwood, before receiving the pass, is going to push off of his defender, Nolan. Check that. It's going to be a foul called on the Pacers. So the foul called actually on Maurice Kennedy, his first, but it's the 8th team foul for the Pacers. So that creates a 1-and-1 situation for Sherwood as we enter the media timeout. So coming out of this timeout, Sherwood will go to the line to shoot 1-and-1. Pacers trail by 18, 41-23. This the 4-minute media timeout, although we're just under 3 minutes to play with 2:58 on the clock here in the first half. Again, I encourage you to stick around for halftime. We're going to play our interview. Patrick Johnson had a chance to sit down with Fred Ammons when the Pacers women's basketball team held the Jackie Ammons Memorial Tournament. So we'll play that for you at the half, and I will recap some stats and keys to the first half of play in what's been a very one-sided contest on the road for Washington and Lee. Entering a very tough home environment in the Herman Student Center here on the campus of William Peace University. Darren Vaught with you on the Pacers Sports Network. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first call of 2016. And we'll resume play with potentially a couple of free throws, at least one here for Joe Sherwood. Washington and Lee 41, William Peace 23 with 2:58 to play in the first half. As Sherwood's free throw attempt is good, so he'll get a second. Chris Thomas is going to check in after that free throw and replace Maurice Kennedy for the Pacers. Terry Rogers and Ryan Emfinger back into the game as well. Sam Johnson and Trey McLean remain in for the Pacers. Second free throw attempt from Sherwood, no good. Boarded by Ryan Emfinger. Gets it to Rogers, the outlet pass, and they quickly go up the court. Sam Johnson on the left corner. Gets it back outside to Rogers. Rogers wanting a little bit more movement out of his teammates. They get it to Ryan Emfinger up top. Emfinger pump fakes the 3. Rogers drives right side, dishes it out to Johnson. Johnson hit as he shot the three-point attempt. No good, no call. And the board goes down to the Generals. Devin Kearns kicks it over to McMillan on the right side for Washington and Lee. Underneath now is Murtha. The ball smacked away and stolen by Trey McLean. Pacers in transition. They have 3 men against the Generals 4. Johnson drives right side baseline, goes underneath to Rogers. Rogers up top to Emfinger, and now it's inside on the block to Thomas. Thomas dribbles out, defended by Sherwood. He hands off to Rogers. Rogers with a spin move, goes left side, puts it up with his right, switched hands in midair, and draws the foul out of Kearns. So Rogers will shoot 2 following the foul. As it's 42-23, Washington and Lee with the lead here on the road. Rogers puts up his first free throw attempt, and it's off the front of the rim. No good. Looked like he may have rushed himself on that one. Put a little bit of spin on the ball, one bend in the knees, and threw it right up. This time he takes his time a little bit more. A couple of dribbles before the shot, and it rolls in. Rogers 1 of 2 in that trip to the line, and it's 42-24 with just under 2 minutes to play. Kearns for the Generals gets it across midcourt. Wild pass over to the left corner is McMillan, but McMillan reels it in. They get it back out to Kearns for 3, and it's good. 45-24, and this has been all Generals with 1:40 remaining here in the first half. Rogers weaves through a couple of defenders, driving to the left side as his pass picked off by McMillan. Another errant pass on the other end as Kearns has it stolen by Emfinger. Johnson in transition. Pump fake, gets an underhanded pass to McLean, and McLean hands it back off to Johnson. Now outside is Emfinger for 3, off the back of the rim, and saving it down in the corner is Trey McLean, but he wasn't able to do so while keeping his feet in bounds. So McLean is out of bounds way back in the corner of the Generals' backcourt, which is where Washington and Lee will toss it in with 1:10 to play here in the first. They lead it 45-24 ahead of your William Peace Pacers. Kearns hits a cutting McMillan. McMillan pulls up at the free throw line for a jump shot, well contested by Thomas of the Pacers as it's no good, and now McLean on the other end for William Peace. Dishes it to Strother. Strother with a quick 3 from the left wing. It's good as we reach 50 seconds to play. And Coach Shields gets a timeout for the Pacers. And it's 45-27. So an 18-point deficit for William Peace University with just under a minute to play here in the first half. And this, again, has been a very spirited road effort for the Washington and Lee Generals, led by Clayton Murtha. Entering today, he leads the team in scoring. He's doing so far. The only player in this game, actually, in double figures with 10 points. In 15 minutes of play. Murtha, though, easily the leading scorer for this Washington and Lee team, has not taken that many more field goal attempts. He's 3 of 5 from the field, and he has 4 teammates with 4 attempts from the field. As we come out of the half timeout, or 32nd timeout rather, 43 seconds and counting. Kearns for the Generals gets it to Sherwood. Sherwood at the elbow, hands off to the point guard, Kleinlein. Now underneath is Sherwood. Sherwood posting up his man, goes all the way across the side of the floor to Kearns, whose three-point attempt is no good, and there's going to be a foul on Washington and Lee. It's a push on Joe Sherwood. So that is the 8th team foul for the Generals, and it will send Chris Thomas to the line for a 1-and-1 situation. 30.7 seconds on the clock here in the first half. As Thomas puts up the free throw and he hits it, so he'll get a chance at another. That makes things 45-28. Washington and Lee with the lead. Thomas's second free throw, almost in identical fashion as the first, rolls in as well. So 45-29, 26 and ticking on the clock as Kearns crosses midcourt. They try a midcourt half-court trap, do the Pacers. And it goes back to Kleinlein, who's pulled out to the gray volleyball line to try and run some time off the clock. We're at 10 seconds to play. Shot clock is off. And the Generals, I would assume, want the last shot here. 4-3 as it's inside to Murtha on the block. He loses his handle and it's stolen away, so the Generals can't get a shot off as time expires for the first half. But it is going to be a shot clock violation with 0.3 with less than half a second on the clock. So it was not a... So the shot clock was on. There was about a half a second difference. And as the Pacers elect to simply inbound the ball and let the time expire. As we head into the half, the Pacers trail by 16. It's 45-29. Again, a very, very high-energy effort on the road for Washington and Lee coming into the half. We'll see what kind of corrections Coach Shields and company make with your Pacers coming out of halftime. And I'll have some stats from the first half for you here in just a bit, but we're going to take a quick break and then let you hear Patrick Johnson's halftime interview with Fred Ammons. That's coming up after this short break. 45-29, Pacers trail Washington and Lee at the half. Darren Vaught with you here on the Pacers Sports Network.
Base 1, clear, takeoff, runway 14. Runway 14, push.
Here we go.
Please proceed to the highlighted route, and then the route guidance will start.
Since 1995, the Global Positioning System, or GPS, developed by the U.S. military, has been operational for civilian use.
After 2/10 of a mile, turn right.
Base 1, clear to land. Runway 14.
Today, the men and women of the Air Force Reserve continue their vital mission, guiding you safely on your way while protecting the freedoms we all enjoy. The United States Air Force Reserve, guiding and protecting America.
This is William Peace Basketball on the Pacers Sports Network.
More than 100 years ago, when others said no, the Wright brothers said yes, taking mankind to the skies. For the past 60 years, this same spirit of vision and courage has been the cornerstone of the United States Air Force. Our patriotic men and women who know no bounds have taken the Air Force beyond the cutting edge of technology. Our United States Air Force turns 60 this year, and we at the Air Force Association would like to thank those who have given so much to keep us safe. AFA.org. We support those who protect us.
Pacer Athletics has a new home online, the all-new GoPiecePacers.com. The all-new GoPiecePacers.com has pictures and team pages for your favorite Pacer athletic teams. You can also access WPU sports broadcast and all of William Peace's social media for athletics. There's an area for recruits and information on Pacer sports camps. Plus, you can buy Pacer gear for your favorite WPU teams. The all-new GoPiecePacers.com, powered by Sidearm Sports.
An important message from Medicare.
When my son first told me about extra help from Medicare, I said, thanks, but no thanks. I didn't want any help paying for my prescriptions. I told him, I don't have much money coming in, but I still have my pride. Besides, I looked into it a couple years ago. I figured if I didn't qualify then, I wouldn't qualify now either. My, oh my, am I ever glad my son didn't give up on me. He reminded me that I was on a limited income and that it was easier than ever for people like me to qualify. So I called, and he was right. Now I pay just a few dollars for generics and a few dollars more for brand name prescriptions. With extra help, I can afford the prescriptions I need. Thanks, Medicare.
Get the extra help you need to stay healthy. Visit socialsecurity.gov or call 1-800-772-1213.
The Pacer Profile is an inside look at WPU athletics and more. Here's today's Pacer Profile on the Pacers Sports Network.
Jackie came to Peace 1977, played volleyball, basketball, excelled at both. She was an all-star, all-state catcher in softball back when they had slow pitch in high school. So she was a good athlete. I was the other athlete in the family. My older brother didn't play sports. My younger brother, Stephen, thought he was an athlete, but he wasn't. Anyway, Jackie got a scholarship to college and came on up to Peace, and
it was a 2-year school there.
2-year school. Played here and started basketball and volleyball for 2 years. The good thing, I was 1 year ahead of her in school. I was at NC State.
Right.
So I'd come over here and hang out with her. We'd play ball together. All her teammates would go over to the house, at a house, my grandmother's house on Hillsborough Street. They'd come over to get away from school, and we'd cook hamburgers, chickens, just good social.
I've heard about these good grill outs you guys. I'm waiting to get invited to one.
Absolutely. I got an invite for you in a little while.
Good.
But, 2 years of school at Peace, she was going to go play, I think, if I remember right, up at Appalachian or either Western. And we had the Peace end-of-year school dance, and what happened, the boy driving the car missed a turn, went off the road. Jackie hit her head. Had a brain concussion, brain swelling, and brain injury, and survived for 14 days with it. It was a kind of difficult time.
Yeah.
They said she survived because she was in such good shape being an athlete.
Yeah.
Passed away one morning, they called us, and we Peace College and my family have done this to keep her memory alive.
Well, if there was ever a student athlete, and not just an academic and an athlete, but somebody who just sort of embodied college life, it was her.
It was Jackie. She was Beta Club here, who's who in college. Everybody knew her. She could walk into Dr. Frazier's office and just sit down and say, "Hey, David," instead of Dr. Frazier. She had that ease about her. And that's one thing I've tried to tell my children, that they have some things in life they have to live up to. One's their grandmother, who was my mom. Her name was Jackie also. And my sister, Jackie Lee. And they were here last night, and then they've helped me keep it alive, keep the tradition going.
Yeah.
It's fun. I came up last night. The girls were in the T-shirts for the warm-ups, and, that kind of made me feel good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know if it's a connection or a disconnection.
Yeah.
I'm 58 years old. It's been over 30 years since Jackie played here.
Yeah.
But I think they, with the jersey up there, they still see what's going on.
Yeah.
They understand it.
Yeah. Well, I know when we get the T-shirts from the tournament, we wear them. People, you tell them the story, and that's a remarkable story, it really is.
I've seen them on. It's a funny story. I told Kelly. There was a kid up in Indiana was doing a high school T-shirt collection, and somebody donated a Jackie Ammons basketball tournament shirt, and it was on the web's internet.
Wow.
It's a crazy thing.
Yeah, it really is. You knew she was destined for great things, but it's that legacy now that kind of lives on too.
Yeah.
So even now she's moved on, and we'll see her again one day. But here we are, and she's still got a legacy and leaving an impact.
She does, and we will see her.
Yeah.
You make me cry. But she would have been a great aunt to my kids.
Yeah.
Hell, I still miss her.
Yeah.
Excuse my French.
Yeah, that's okay, Fred. I didn't mean to get you teared up because this is really a celebration too. That's one of the greatest. Yeah.
And to see the gym crowded like we have been for the tournaments the last 2 or 3 years. It's a reflection upon William Peace and what they've done. We've already got it booked for next year.
In 2 miles, go right at exit.
Time to spare.
Then don't listen to her.
Huh? Who are you?
Your other GPS voice. Did you think she was the only one in here? In 1 mile, go right at exit. Go read a map, sweetie. Come on, handsome. We could go out to the wineries and clink a few glasses.
Dueling voices?
Don't listen to her, laddie.
3 of you?
Take your bonny Blue Ridge Parkway up to the Lane Cove. We'll hike the slopes of Grandfather and have a pint in your blowing rock.
Are you going to listen to a guy in a skirt?
It's a kilt.
Take the exit in 100. Recalculating.
Psst, mon cher. Let them do guitar.
Whoa, you're in there too?
Come on, I know a romantic overlook. It's so secluded.
Going somewhere? You can have the vacation of your dreams right in North Carolina. There are things you've never done in your home state. So do them. For ideas, go to visitnc.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Division of Tourism, Film, and Sports Development.
How can a mouse save you money? Well, just use your computer mouse to navigate to TogetherWeSave.com. You'll find a website filled with great ideas on how to cut your energy bill. Some are as simple as closing the blinds when it's hot outside or turning your water heater down when you go on vacation. Along with lots of valuable cost-cutting information, TogetherWeSave.com lets you take a peek at how much money you can save. Take the fun online home tour and see what you can save through simple energy-saving practices. The interactive tour calculates savings customized to your location. If you have an iPhone or Android device, download the Together We Save app. You'll be able to receive daily tips and reminders on new ways to make your home more energy efficient. So turn off the lights, adjust the thermostat, and follow your mouse to TogetherWeSave.com. You can save energy and save money. TogetherWeSave.com, a service of North Carolina's Touchtone Energy Cooperative.
This is William Peace Basketball on the Pacers Sports Network. With a recap of all the action, here's Darren Vaught.
Welcome back to the Pacers Sports Network. 45-29, our halftime score, as William Peace trailing the visiting Generals of Washington and Lee University, members of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. As it's been up and down the court, very fast pace. Both of these teams very anxious to get the ball into their front courts and get some shots up. The Pacers, however, not able to do so quite as well as the Generals so far, as they trail by 16. We're about 2.5 minutes from resuming play for the second half. Darren Vaught with you here on the Pacers Sports Network, and I'm going to look through these first half stats between both teams. Just one player in double figures scoring. It's Clayton Murtha. Murtha averaging nearly 17 points per game entering this contest, and he has 10 exactly, as well as 4 rebounds. He's 3 of 5 from the field, 4 of 5 from the charity stripe. And past that, just about everyone who's seen the floor for the Generals is on the scoreboard. 3 members with 7 points at the half in Kleinlein, Kearns, and Sherwood, all respectively. Sherwood also with 6 rebounds. All 6 of them defensive rebounds, to his credit. And then with 6 points, it's Andrew France. 3 each for Douglas and George of the Generals. And then 2 was the fast break one-handed slam from McMillan, a Raleigh native, in his first year at Washington and Lee. 2 minutes of play, but no points for Etling, also of the Generals, although he was pretty effective when he was in with a rebound and an assist, to his credit. So that takes us over to the Pacers, being outscored, of course, by 16 in the first half. Are led in scoring by Nate Strother. Strother just 2 of 7 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. But he's had a couple of tough drives, forced his way to the basket and to the free throw line. So he's 3 of 3 from the stripe and has 8 points so far for William Peace. 6 points each for Chris Thomas, the Pacers' leading scorer this season. He's 2 of 5 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. tough time hitting three-point shots here for the Pacers early on, and then 6 again for Sam Johnson, who's 2 of 4 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. And then 5 points for Terry Rogers, as he's hit 1 field goal and 3 of 4 from the free throw line. And then 2 each for Trey McLean and Corey Anderson. Not a lot of foul trouble. The only Pacers player with multiple fouls in the first half was Corey Anderson. And for Washington and Lee, not a single player with more than 1 foul, though they had 7 players who committed fouls. So I wouldn't necessarily expect any kind of foul trouble for any individual player to come into play toward the end of this contest, as we get set to resume the play on the court and enter the second half, as it will be Pacers ball. So Nate Strother to trigger it in at midcourt for William Peace. He'll hand it off to Terry Rogers. And starters back on the floor for Peace. So it's Rogers, Emfinger, Strother, Thomas, and King. Emfinger on the right elbow, crosses up his man, kicks it out to the corner to Strother. Strother goes up for the layup, and it's a jump ball. As Nicholas George, good job to get 2 hands on it, and equal possession with Strother. And so the jump ball goes to the Generals. Kleinlein comes across midcourt and gives it to George. They'll go up top now. Top of the circle is France. France hits a cutting George. George driving, goes outside to Kleinlein. Underneath now to Murtha. Murtha bodied up by King. Gets a shot off, but not a good one, and it's out. Pacers with the rebound. Ryan Emfinger on the right wing, thinks about a shot, doesn't have it, gets it to Rogers. They kick it out. Strother wide open for 3, and it's no good. A rare miss when he is that open for Strother from 3-point range. And the rebound goes down to the Generals. Douglas on the left wing, bounces it inside to Murtha. Murtha, nothing doing, goes outside to George. George tries it again to inside to Murtha on the block. He's defended by King. Spins right side, and this time gets it to go. 2 more points for Murtha. He's got 12, and it's a 47-29 lead for the Generals. 18:41 to play. Chris Thomas up top for the Pacers. Drives left side. Tries to pass it to Strother on the left wing, but it's batted away and stolen by Murtha. In transition, Kleinlein, though, is going to have it knocked away in the front court by Emfinger. So it's out off of the hand of Ryan Emfinger. And possession stays with the Generals. France to send it in. He goes underneath from the inbound pass to Murtha. Murtha drives left side on King. Works his way under the defenseman's arm and puts it in for 2 more. So 14 for Murtha. Meanwhile, on the other end, Strother driving from the left corner. Puts it in for 2 off of the glass and is fouled as well. So that makes it 49-31 after the 2-point basket by Strother. Sherwood, meanwhile, checks back into the game for the Generals, as does Sam Arnold for the Pacers. He replaces Dakota King. Strother looks to complete the 3-point play and does. That one's good. And makes it a 17-point game. Generals lead. Kleinlein across midcourt. Has it stolen away by Emfinger. Emfinger, as he falls out of bounds with possession, trying to call a timeout, but he didn't need that necessarily, as a foul was called on Kleinlein. So the foul ensures that possession will go to the Pacers, and with 18:05 to play, Terry Rogers bounces it inside to Corey Anderson, who goes back out to Rogers. Rogers looking for Strother, cutting up top. He catches and shoots at the top of the circle for 3. Nothing but net. Strother good from deep, and it's 49-35. Sherwood up top, looking for a ball handler to get it to. Goes to Nicholas George over on the right wing. And on the other side of the floor, there's a foul called. That looks like it's going to go against Ryan Emfinger. So an inbound pass underneath the basket for the Generals. George triggers it in, gets it to the block where he's got Sherwood. Sherwood defended by Arnold. Sherwood, a little too strong, puts it up off the bottom of the rim, rebounded by Rogers. Rogers in transition to the right corner. It's Strother for three. And every member of this Pacers squad leaves their seat on the bench, and it's an 11-point game. Rogers steals it away from Kleinlein. In transition, he's bodied up, puts it up, and he's going to be fouled. Rogers goes to the line to shoot two. All of a sudden, we break out of halftime, and the momentum shifting very quickly to the Pacers. It's 49-38. Lead cut down to 11 with 17-17 to play here in the second half. A couple of big three-point shots from Nate Strother. And more sensational hustle play out of Terry Rogers as he gets the steal from the point guard Kleinlein at midcourt. Runs it down. He picked it up right at the perimeter. As Rogers' first free throw, no good. It's off the front of the rim. Had he hit both, he could have made this a single-digit game again, but it's still an 11-point deficit for the Pacers as he puts up the second. And that's off front iron as well. 0 for 2, a rare empty trip to the free throw line for Rogers. As Rogers has it, nearly steals it away again, bats the ball away, and falls into the Washington and Lee bench as it goes out of bounds. So the ball goes back to the Generals. 17:08 to play. Washington and Lee in front of their own bench, triggers it in. Douglas with a hard time to get the pass off, gets it to Kleinlein, who drives baseline and is going to be fouled by Rogers. Rogers, tough defense there, but a little handsy for this officiating crew, and he's charged with his second foul. So Rogers will check out in favor of Jalen Vince for the Pacers. George to toss it in from underneath the Washington and Lee basket. He gets it to Murtha. Murtha puts up the shot and is fouled. Looked like M-finger on the help D. Check that. It's going to be called on Corey Anderson. So Anderson with his third foul sends Murtha to the line to shoot two. Murtha's first of two free throws is in and out, no good. And it remains an 11-point lead for the Generals. 49-38 with 17:03 to play. Murtha now 4 of 6 from the stripe today. Second doesn't fall either. And the rebound by the Pacers. Here comes Strother in transition. Kicks it to the right corner. An open three for Sam Johnson, but it's no good. And the rebound goes to the Generals. Kleinlein across midcourt. Hands it to Sherwood at the top of the key. Now it's George, Nicholas George in the left corner. Has it batted away. Tried to get an entry pass to Murtha, but Vince steals it away for the Pacers. Vince in transition is fouled, the blocking foul. Perhaps a bailout call there. Vince was going hard to the bucket, and once he realized he couldn't go straight up because of the contact, wasn't really sure where he was going to go with it, but the foul is going to be charged to Kleinlein, who will exit, as well as Nick George. So Vince triggers it in, gets it to Sam Johnson. They go up top to Strother for three, and it's good as well. 3 of his last 3 for Nate Strother from deep, and it's an 8-point game. Murtha with the ball up top. King bats it away, but Murtha reels it in. Much more physical effort defensively for the Pacers here. Good defense underneath. Douglas tried to put a spin move on Strother, but shuffles his feet. And the traveling violation gives it back to the Pacers. So 3 and D for Nate Strother in consecutive possessions. Hits the big shot in the front court and then causes the turnover. Pacers with it. It's Jalen Vince. Spins right side. Goes to Strother for 3. A little too strong, but it's boarded by Thomas, who puts it back in. 49-43, just a 6-point lead for the visiting Generals here at the Herm. Washington and Lee swinging it around. They finally go in on the block to Murtha. Murtha puts the shot up. No good, although it almost spun in a circus shot as he got fouled. Murtha to the line to shoot 2 more free throws as we're at the 16-minute media timeout with 15:45 on the clock here in the second half. And Washington and Lee, yet only 4 points in over 4 minutes of play here in the second half compared to 14 for the Pacers. And just like that, it went from being a 16-point contest to a 6-point contest in 4 minutes and 15 seconds of play. 49-43 is our score. And Nate Strother has more than doubled his scoring in the past 4 minutes of play, hitting 3 huge 3-point shots. So Strother now with 20 points on the contest. He's 4 of 9 from deep. And then, of course, the great hustle by Terry Rogers to keep momentum for the Pacers, although he was 0 of 2 in his trip to the line after the steal at midcourt. But a big 14-4 run for the Pacers coming out of halftime to start this second half. And as we exit the media timeout, it's going to be the 5 for the Pacers will be Sam Johnson, Jalen Vince. Nate Strother stands in the backcourt as Murtha shoots free throws for Washington and Lee. And then Chris Thomas and Dakota King down in the post for the Pacers. Murtha's first free throw attempt is good, so it's 50-43 with 15:45 to play. As Murtha's second is good as well. So Murtha and Strother going pound for pound. Murtha with 16 points in the game. 51-43, Jalen Vince running the offense for the Pacers. Goes to the right wing, it's Strother, who puts it on the floor and elects to go back up top to Sam Johnson. Johnson looking for Thomas at the elbow. Fakes a pass left to Vince and goes to Thomas up top instead. Thomas, step back 3-point attempt, no good. Shot clock was going to expire. It didn't look like Thomas's shot hit the rim, but they reset it as it was rebounded. The air ball was rebounded by Strother, who put it up and was fouled. So Strother to the line to shoot 2. The foul for Washington and Lee charged to Sherwood. That's his second. 5th foul of the half already for the Generals with 15 minutes and 16 seconds to play. Strother's first of 2 free throws is good, making it a 7-point deficit for the Pacers. Emfinger replaces Sam Johnson as Strother's second is off the mark. Rebound by the Generals as Kearns will drive left side on Emfinger. Picks up his dribble at the perimeter. Goes up top to Murtha. Murtha nowhere to go, so he goes back to Kearns. Kearns tries an inlet pass to Sherwood, but it's kicked out of bounds by Emfinger. As Strother will check out of the game for the Pacers in favor of Trey McLean. 15:03 to play. Inbound pass goes to Kearns, and the Generals now have it as he drives baseline on McLean and puts it in for 2. Good bucket there by Kearns, makes it 53-44, under 15 to play. McLean brings it up court for the Pacers. They swing it around. Now it's on the wing to Jalen Vince. Up top to Emfinger, and they swing it around. It's back to McLean, left corner. He drives right by his defender, McMillan, and they go deep. Emfinger's 3 is off the mark, boarded by Sherwood, but Sherwood hit the floor. And traveling violation will give it back to the Pacers underneath their own basket. So William Peace with 14:34 to play, trails by 9. 53-44. And not sure what was going on here with the officials, but they sort whatever it was out and resume play. So a new shot clock for the Pacers as they get it in to Sam Johnson up top. Johnson drives right and goes back to Thomas at the top of the key. Thomas now looking underneath, instead drives left side on Murtha, floats it up, nearly has it swatted away, but a lot of body on that contact there. And Murtha will commit the foul, so Thomas will go to the free throw line. 53-44 is our score. It's a 9-point lead for the Generals. Murtha commits his second personal foul. That's already the 6th team foul on Washington and Lee. So the Pacers will be shooting 1-1 at least from here on out. Thomas hits his first. Makes it an 8-point game, 53-45 as Murtha checks out for the Generals in favor of France. 14-18 to play. As Thomas's second free throw is on the way, and it's in. 7-point game. Generals 53, Pacers 46 with 14-12 left. Half-court trap from the Pacers, but the Generals get it inside to France. France kicks it out to Kleinlein. Drives left side, loses his handle, and before he could get the pass off, lands on the floor again, so it's a walk. A traveling violation, rather, is probably the better explanation. As under 14 minutes to play, and the Pacers with the ball again. Rogers kicks it out to Thomas. Thomas fakes a three, goes to the right side, and it's Sam Johnson for three from the right wing. New year, but same old Sam Johnson. He leads the team in three-point field goals made, and he makes it a 4-point game. 53-49, Generals with it. Nowhere to go but from the left corner. Kleinlein takes a three of his own, contested, and hits it. Nothing but net. Kleinlein. A very bold shot there, as on the other end, Sam Johnson in transition is fouled on the layup attempt. So it's 56-49, a 7-point game, 13 minutes, 28 seconds to play, as Johnson goes to the line to shoot a pair. His first is off the back of the rim and no good. Johnson, after that one, 1 of 2 from the free throw line today. He has 9 points on the contest. Second is no good, a little strong there as well. Rebounded by France, and the Generals with it. France, despite the man-to-man coverage, gets an outlet to Kearns, and Kearns brings it across midcourt. They go underneath to Sherwood. Sherwood fakes a pass right, drives left side on Dakota King, and floats it up there, and it's in for 2. 58-49, 13:05 to play. Rogers kicks it to the right side to Johnson. Johnson drives, and they go outside to Thomas. Thomas with the pump fake, gets Sherwood in the air, drives, and the floater is in and out. Rebounded by Kearns, and the Generals pushing it in transition. Kearns drives left side, 3 against 1, and Kearns gets it to fall despite contact with Chris Thomas. And so now the Pacers on the other end will slow things down, as it's 60-49. They trail by 11 again. They swing it around to Sam Johnson to the left wing for 3. King's putback attempt is no good. Wanted a foul call there as he was pushed around by Sherwood, but it's rebounded by the Generals. Now on the left wing is Kleinlein. Gets a pick up top from Sherwood. Terry Rogers is the defender. Kleinlein drives right side, has it knocked away, but it's going to be a foul called on Rogers. That looked pretty clean to me. If anything, foul could have been on the help defense. I believe that was Chris Thomas coming in to assist him. And the call looks to be that it was on the shot. So Kleinlein will go to the line to shoot 2. He misses the first. And I'm a little confused as to how that could have been on the shot. But the free throw no good, as we've got an array of substitutions. For your Pacers, Ryan Emfinger, Tyquan Nolan, and Corey Anderson re-enter the game, as does Nate Strother. So Rogers, the only Pacer on the floor that remains there. And now with lineup set, Kleinlein will attempt his second free throw, and it's good. 61-49 Generals lead with 12 minutes, 10 seconds to play. Rogers quickly getting it across the midcourt for the Pacers. They go underneath to Anderson. Anderson posts up Murtha, but used a couple of different pivot feet there, so he's going to be called for the traveling violation. The move certainly deked his defender, but perhaps that was because Murtha couldn't quite anticipate that he would have used his second pivot foot there. In transition, the pass overthrown by George. He wanted Murtha down below the basket. And the call was going to be that it was off a piece defender. So Washington and Lee retains possession. Exactly 12 minutes to play on the clock as they get it into Kleinlein. Now it's George on the left wing. George goes up top to Kearns. Kearns gets a pick from Murtha. Wanted him on the pick and roll, but good D there by Nolan to seal the gap. Left side is Kleinlein. Jab step to the right and hits another three. That was in the face of Strother. So giving Strother a taste of his own medicine, while Rogers on the other end goes coast to coast and lays it in for two. 64-51 Generals lead. Kearns, top of the circle, goes underneath to France. France wide open layup, no good. Bats it away up to the midcourt, and it's rebounded eventually by Murtha. So the Generals now with it. France kicks it all the way to the right corner. In the corner, it's Kleinlein again for three. 67-51. And the Pacers had reeled it within four. But it's a 16-point game once again, 67-51. Rogers hands off to Emfinger. To Strother on the left wing for three this time, no good. Wedged in between the rim and the backboard as it's rebounded by the Generals. In transition, it's Kearns, puts it up for two, nearly blocked by Anderson. Good D. Miss and rebound by Anderson. Rogers in transition, puts it up, no good, but on the tip in, it's Anderson. 10:34 to play, 67-53 is our score. Kleinlein on the left wing, as now the piece defenders not giving him quite as much room. He's hit those threes pretty well contested, not really running sets to get him open. They swing it around underneath, and now it's Kearns for three from the right wing. It's good. A three-point onslaught from the Generals. And it's a 17-point game as Tyquan Nolan on the other end misses the three for the Pacers. Kleinlein with it in transition, and he takes a deep shot, and it's in for three again. Kleinlein now 5 of 6 from three-point range. And 20 points to his credit. He has now nearly matched the total of Nate Strother. Strother still leading all scorers with 21. But that made it a 20-point game as we go into the media timeout. And with 9:48 to play, that that technically is the 12-minute media timeout. 73-53. And quite literally, in a 20-point contest, Kleinlein with 20 points is the difference in this one. He's 5 of 6 from three, 7 of 8 overall from the field. Also 4 rebounds. And he's just been conscienceless in this second half. And as I mentioned before that last three, the Generals not really running anything to get him open. They're just giving him the ball on the wing, and some pretty lax defense by the Pacers individually on Kleinlein, enabling him to have the space to just pull up from anywhere. But that's only half of the equation. Of course, if you've ever picked up a basketball and shot it from 25 feet, getting the shot off is only half of what's involved there. Very skilled shooter is Kleinlein, as he's 5 of 6 from deep. So we exit the timeout, and Sam Johnson throws it inbounds to Jalen Vince as the Pacers with it. They're going to try and cut away at this deficit, much like they did at the beginning of the second half. Sam Johnson driving from the right wing and is going to be fouled. And that's called on Darren Douglas, so it's the 8th team foul for Washington and Lee. Johnson will go to the line to shoot 1-1. And so check that. This will be the media timeout. If I'm not mistaken, the last timeout was taken by William Peace. So with 9:40 to play, we enter a media timeout. 73-53, Generals lead it. As the landscape of this stat sheet here has changed quite a bit since we last looked at it about 10 minutes ago. The Generals' Murtha was the only player in double figures when we hit halftime. He now sits at 16. He had 10, so he scored 6 in the second half. Kleinlein, Andy Kleinlein for the Generals, has now 20 points as he is 5 of 6 from 3. And then Devin Kearns as well with 14. So now 3 players in double figures for the Generals. Very different looking on the William Peace side of things as well, as Strother hit 3 consecutive threes coming out of halftime and now has 21 points. Chris Thomas also has reached double figures with 10. And the Pacers reeled it into as little as 4 points. But again, it's a 20-point contest, 73-53 is the lead for the Generals, as Sam Johnson is at the line shooting 1-1. He hits his first, so he'll get a second. That makes it 73-54 with 9 minutes and 40 seconds to play. Johnson's second free throw is good as well. Now an 18-point deficit as Kleinlein dribbles across midcourt, goes right side to George. Back to Kleinlein, and up to the top of the key is Sherwood. 15-footer off the mark, rebounded by Thomas, and the Pacers with it. Jalen Vince goes to the left wing at Strother. Pump fake on the 3, drives, kicks it outside to Thomas. Thomas left wing now to Jalen Vince. They go underneath to Corey Anderson. Shot looked like it may have been blocked by Murtha, but it could have gone off the side of the backboard. A lot of contact either way. And it goes back to the Generals as Kleinlein bounces it over to the left side. It's Douglas. And up top is Sherwood, and Coach Shields for William Peace yelling he can't do that. Very frustrated with these officials as the ball goes to Douglas. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Up top is Murtha with about a 20-footer. And it's off the front of the rim, rebounded by Thomas. Thomas swings it around to Jalen Vince. Vince, jab step to the right, nowhere to go, so he puts it on the floor, drives left side. Floater is good, but he got a screen along the way from Corey Anderson. And Anderson is called for the foul. So Anderson in a bit of foul trouble. That's his 4th now. As King is called upon to replace Anderson. Dakota King, that is, for the Pacers. 8:37 to play. It's 73-55. Kleinlein with it for the Generals. Swings it around, and they go to Andrew France up top. Left side now is Nick George for 3. Long off of the back of the rim and rebounded by Sam Johnson. He hands it off to Vince to run things. Vince pushing the tempo in the front court for the Pacers. Drives, nifty pass in between 3 defenders to Nate Strother on the baseline, and Strother banks it in for 2. 73-57 with 8:05 to play. Murtha up top for the Generals. Hands it to George. George drives and kicks it out to France. France inside, the pass to Murtha, no good, but Murtha smacks it out to the perimeter, and the rebound, long rebound, is obtained by the Generals, but there's a whistle. And I'm not quite sure what this is. Some deliberation from the officials underneath the basket at the baseline, and they stopped play. They stopped live play to evidently call a media timeout. And I, quite frankly, am not sure that they're allowed to do that. So this will be the 8-minute media timeout, 7:51 to play. 73-57. Washington and Lee leads by 16. So this replicates their lead that they took into halftime here at the Herm. And coming out into the second half, a huge run by the Pacers brought it within 4. And then if this were a Shakespearean play, the script would read, enter Andy Kleinlein, who hit 4 consecutive threes. He's 5 of 6 from deep on the day and really put this thing out of reach once again and it got up to a 20-point lead. Now it's 73-57, a 16-point lead. But the Pacers certainly fighting. They have shot very well here in this second half, though not quite as well as Washington and Lee. The Generals 10 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 6 from 3. So that's 55.6% from the field, 83% from 3 as the media timeout ends and we resume play. Washington and Lee inbounds it from underneath their own basket. Down low is Murtha for the Generals. Pump fake, he gets King in the air. And with King practically on his back, banks it in for 2. So Murtha with 2 more and a chance for a 3-point play. 7 minutes, 46 seconds to play. Murtha now 6 of 11 from the field with 18 points. He'll look to make it 19 here. And he does. 76-57 now our score. Rogers across the timeline for the Pacers. Crosses up his man and goes to the left wing is Sam Johnson. Johnson back out to Rogers. Rogers gets a pick on the left side from King, thinks better of it and drives right. Loses his footing as well as his handle, and it sails out of bounds at the baseline. So Generals now with the inbound pass, and it's stolen away. Johnson with it, hands off to Strother, who banks it in for 2. So another turnover turned into points for the Pacers, and it's 76-59. France with it for the Generals across the timeline. Strother keeping up very well with his appointed man, Nick George. George goes underneath to France. France defended by Chris Thomas. Backs him down. There's now at the right block. Goes outside to George. George drives left, gets a screen from Murtha. Murtha kicks it outside to France for 3 from the right wing with about 4 seconds on the shot clock. He hits it. And it's back to a 20-point lead, 70-59. On the other end, Strother with the 3. He took the handoff from Rogers, and it's off the front of the rim. Quick shot there for the Pacers, no good. Rebounded by Washington and Lee. Kleinlein gets a screen from Murtha up top. Takes it and drives right side, hands off to George. George goes underneath. Murtha puts it on the floor one time, spin move, thinks about a shot, and hands it back off to Kleinlein up top. Kleinlein drives and goes up above and underneath the hands of Dakota King, puts it in for 2. Johnson on the other end for the Pacers for 3, off back of the rim, no good. Rebounded by Murtha, and here come the Generals. To Kearns, underneath to France. Bounce pass gets through the lane, and France with an easy 2. 83-59 now our score, as Coach Shields wants the timeout. And this now has reached a point that it has not reached so far in this contest. 83-59. It's a 24-point lead for the Generals as we're under 6 minutes to play. 5 minutes, 52 seconds remaining. And While we've got a quick break, we want to remind you, Pacers fans, William Peace University and the women's basketball team are asking you to join Scott's team in an initiative to raise funds and awareness in the area of suicide prevention. Pacers women's basketball team is partnering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention by asking you to donate and become a member of Scott McClure's team. More details available at afsp.donordrive.com/Scott's team. That'll be a point of emphasis on February 13th when the women's team welcomes crosstown rival Meredith College here to the Herm. I'll have the call for that one as we break out of the timeout. 5:52 to play. Pacers with it in their own front court. As the inbound goes from Sam Johnson to Terry Rogers. Rogers directing traffic. Goes left side to Sam Johnson. Johnson tries to clear it up top to Thomas, who has it knocked away and has to reel it back in the backcourt. Active hands by France there on D. Rogers drives right side, kicks it to the left as Thomas open for three, and it's no good. Kind of faded away with his shot there. Was a little strong, perhaps trying to compensate for the fade. And it's off the back of the iron. Rebounded by the Generals. Up top to Murtha at the elbow, and he bounce passes it immediately underneath to McMillan. McMillan went up for two-handed jam. It's off the rim and out. But he's fouled, so he's going to go to the line to shoot two. The foul called on Nate Strother. So Strother's first free throw sends McMillan to the line. And McMillan, a lanky body, not necessarily very athletic looking, but he's got a spring in his hop. Had there not been a defender in the way making contact there, McMillan absolutely would have skied to throw that one down for two with both hands. And William Peace gets a timeout prior to the free throws with 5 minutes and 14 seconds remaining here at William Peace University. Darren Vaught with you here on the Pacers Sports Network. I want to thank you again for joining us. As it's a 24-point deficit for the Pacers. As we go down the scoring breakdown, Strother's still leading all scorers with 25 points. He's 4 of 11 from three, which amounts to 36.4%. If he was to shoot that for a season, I mean, that's a really good mark. But good three-point shooting, not enough to match the insanely efficient three-point shooting by the Generals here in the second half, namely Andy Kleinlein, who sits at 5 for 6 from three. As we break out of the huddles, McMillan goes to the line to shoot his first of two free throws. Some substitutions meanwhile. Maurice Kennedy re-enters the game for the Pacers, and McMillan gets his second to fall. It's 84-59. 25-point lead, the largest so far for the Generals. Trey McLean now gets it to Sam Johnson. Johnson goes right wing to Kennedy. Up top is Sam Arnold for three. Off the back of the rim, and the long rebound regained by Arnold, and the Pacers with another shot. McLean up top, defended by Kearns. Gets a screen from Thomas. Hits Thomas on the roll, who stopped at the right block and hands it back off to McLean. McLean drives and is going to be fouled, though he did not get a shot off, so that will send him to the line to shoot 1-and-1. Foul called on Kearns. It's his second. 9th team foul for Washington and Lee. So the next time the Generals commit a foul, the Pacers will be in the double bonus and won't have to make the first one to get a second, as McLean does. So it's good. 84-60. As we see Chris Thomas exit the game for the Pacers, Ben Brower replaces him. Brower seeing his first minutes of the day. McLean's second free throw is on the way. Hit the back of the rim, but a friendly roll puts it in, and he was 2 for 2 from the trip. So 84-61 with 4:35 to play. Murtha at the elbow for the Generals. Swings it back around to France. France drives and kicks it to McMillan. McMillan's floater no good. Rebound. Reeled in by Brower. Nearly lost his handle and ended up in the hands of Sam Arnold. Arnold swings it to the left side to Sam Johnson on the other end for the Pacers. 4:13 to play. On the right wing now is McLean. McLean goes to Kennedy in the right corner. Kennedy thinks about a three, thinks better of it, and goes up top to McLean. McLean, pump fake, puts it on the floor and shoots the 15-footer, and it's in for two. 84-63 the score. Douglas on the right wing. Floats it up top to Murtha. Murtha bodying up his man in Arnold and puts it in for two. He's been nearly unstoppable. Kennedy on the other end for the Pacers. Hands it off to McLean. They go up top to Sam Johnson. Johnson defended by Douglas of the Generals. Spins left and hands it off to Arnold. Arnold goes up top to Brower. Back to Arnold in the left corner. And Sam Johnson with 9 on the shot clock gets it up top. Picks up his dribble, goes to Arnold. Arnold, a contested three-point attempt, no good, as Murtha was in his face the whole time. Rebounded by McLean, and McLean drives baseline, goes up and under and puts it in for two. 86-65 now the score with 3:10 to play. The Generals from the left wing. And that's McMillan for three. The Raleigh native with an impressive performance here in his hometown. Kennedy driving, bounce pass to Arnold. Arnold can't handle it. It's stolen away by Kearns. Here come the Generals. Kearns takes it himself coast to coast. Layup no good. Rebound to the Pacers. Brower clears it to Johnson. Johnson 1-on-4 has it knocked away. Thought he was fouled. There's a scrap for it. McLean ends up with the ball on the ground and clears it to Brower, who hands it back to McLean to run the offense. Johnson on the right wing. Goes up top to Brower. Brower driving right side on Murtha. Shot no good. Not able to hedge away at Murtha's defense and make his way into the lane. And now, as the rebound is obtained by the Generals, Washington and Lee calls a timeout, as it looked like they're going to have wholesale substitutions. And it will be garbage time for the Generals. 2 minutes, 22 seconds to play as we enter the timeout. 89-65, a 24-point lead for Washington and Lee here on the road. As for the majority of this contest, it's been all Generals, with the exception of about the first 5 minutes of the second half. Washington and Lee has had this well in hand. They took a 16-point lead into the half here on the road. Again, looking for their first true road win of the season. They have a win at a neutral site game, but all their other 5 wins are at home in Harrisonburg. .222 to play as we resume. Substitutions for Washington and Lee. On the inbound pass, it's Michael Hagar. They get it over to the right side. Jalen Twine. Twine drives, kicks it back out to Hagar, who drives left side. Hagar defended by Sam Johnson. And it goes to Etling up top, who we've seen before. He hands off to Steven Himmelberg. Himmelberg drives left side. Gets the nifty layup to fall. He was defended by Kennedy of the Pacers and makes it 91-65. In the left corner now for the Pacers is Sam Johnson, drills the three. And the Pacers nearly match their scoring average for the season at 68 points. 91-68, and the Generals on the other end of the court want a timeout. They lead by 23. And I misspoke. So 68.8 is actually the General's scoring average on this season through 9 games. So this, of course, well above their average as they're at 91 points on the day. Pacers averaging right around 75 points per game, so they haven't quite hit that mark yet with 1 minute and 40 seconds to play. Inbound pass will be thrown by Himmelberg of the Generals. He tosses up an alley-oop pass to Jock Asillo out of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, the senior. He wasn't able to complete the oop, but he went up and got it and put in the layup for 2. So Asillo on the board with 2. As McLean puts up a tough layup, is fouled on the other end for the Pacers. And it's 93-68. Generals lead, 1 minute 22 to play. McLean goes to the line to shoot 2 for the second time this half. And he hits the first. So a few more substitutions for the Generals as they dig even deeper on the bench. Austin Piott enters the game along with Seamus Craw. Piott will bring it down the floor after McLean hits his second of 2 free throws. 93-70, 1:14 to play. Generals with it up top. It's Craw. Hands off to Twine. Twine to Piott. Piott defended by Kennedy. Kicks it left side, and they go back inside to Asillo. Defended by DeAndre Richardson of the Pacers, who just checked in. Piott with a layup attempt, no good. Rebound by Brower, and the Pacers on the other end. Now in the front court. McLean goes up top to Brower. Brower. Runner, and off the backboard and off the front of the rim. Nearly falls, but he's fouled, so he'll shoot 2. And Ben Brower, no points so far in this contest, will look to get on the board. He's now got 4 minutes of play, 0 of 1 from the field, a couple of rebounds. As his first is up and no good off the front right side of the rim. Bounces over toward the William Peace bench. And it's gathered so Brower may shoot his second of 2 free throws as we're under a minute to play. 45 seconds left. It's a 23-point lead for the Generals over the William Peace Pacers. Brower's free throw was no good. Rebounded by Kennedy, but with the contact that he had to pursue that rebound with, he was knocked out of bounds, so it gives it back to Washington and Lee. They inbound it, and we're now under 40 to play. Piott crosses midcourt. Goes to Crawl on the left wing. Twine up top. Goes to the right corner. And a 3-point shot attempt from Starr. Alex Starr in the game for the Generals. His 3-point shot attempt no good, and it's rebounded by the Pacers. So now McLean and Brower in the backcourt to bring it up for William Peace. McLean defended by Piott, 17 seconds and counting. Maurice Kennedy up top, fakes a pass left, goes right to McLean. McLean goes underneath, it's Brower. Brower, turnaround, tries to get a shot up, has it stripped away by Starr, it looked like, and it's going to be a reaching foul. So Starr charged with his first foul of the contest. Pacers in the double bonus, so Brower will shoot 2 free throws yet again, as his first is way off the mark, a little stronger than his other efforts as it goes off the backboard and then the right side of the rim. So now he's 0 of 3 in 3 recent attempts at the free throw line. 6.8 seconds on the clock, 93-70 our score. Brower puts one on target this time, but it rolls in and out. Rebounded by a CO of the Generals as we hit 1 second to play. Piot gets across the timeline, wanted to get a shot off, but loses his handle as time expires. And it's going to be scored as a 93-70 win for Washington and Lee on the road here at the Herman Athletic Center on the campus of William Peace University. The lead got to be as many as 25, and in the second half as few as 4, as the Pacers came out of halftime with a huge run, but it just wasn't enough after the sharp three-point shooting by Andy Kleinlein and some other crisp offensive players for Washington and Lee. Clayton Murtha, their leading scorer, entering this contest with an impressive performance. But I think a silver lining in this one, if you can find it for the Pacers, is going to be that run. That was bottled lightning. That run that they went on probably the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half. Strother hitting 3 consecutive threes. The first time all year he's led the Pacers in scoring. He ended with 25. But coming up, I'm going to recap the stats here in the tough loss for the Pacers here at the Herm. 93-70 your final. Washington and Lee over William Peace. Stay with us. I'm going to recap some stats, and then we'll have the Coach's Corner as Claude Shields will join me in just a bit to talk about his team's performance. Darren Butt with you on the Pacers Sports Network. 93-70. Stay with us.
An important message from Medicare.
When my son first told me about extra help from Medicare, I said, thanks, but no thanks. I didn't want any help paying for my prescriptions. I told him, I don't have much money coming in, but I still have my pride. Besides, I looked into it a couple of years ago. I figured if I didn't qualify then, I wouldn't qualify now either. My, oh my, am I ever glad my son didn't give up on me. He reminded me that I was on a limited income and that it was easier than ever for people like me to qualify. So I called, and he was right. Now I pay just a few dollars for generics and a few dollars more for brand name prescriptions. With extra help, I can afford the prescriptions I need. Thanks, Medicare.
Get the extra help you need to stay healthy. Visit socialsecurity.gov or call 1-800-772-1213.
This is William Peace Basketball on the Pacers Sports Network.
Darren Vaught with you here on the Pacers Sports Network postgame as Washington and Lee defeats your William Peace University Pacers by a score of 93-70. The lead got to be as many as 25 in the second half. And after the Generals took a 16-point lead into the half, and in about the first 5 minutes of play in the second half, the Pacers went on a huge run and brought it within as few as 4. But then really the hero, I think, for the Generals, Andy Kleinlein, 5 of 6 from 3, really stifled the comeback attempt for your Pacers. And so looking at the stats for the Generals, Kleinlein led the way with 22 points, fueled, of course, by that 5 of 6 performance from 3. 5 rebounds also for him. 8 of 9 from the field. Not too often in a game you've got a guy who handles the ball as much as Kleinlein does and plays as many minutes as Kleinlein does, 27 minutes on the game. Not too often you have a guy like that shoot 88.9% from the field, but he did on 9 field goal attempts. Just a remarkable performance, especially in the fact that the Generals didn't really run an offensive set to try to get him open for 3. Kleinlein oftentimes would just receive the pass, and he's 1-to-1 against his defender. You know, some good hesitation goes into that. Good eye eye contact and working his way around the floor, deceiving his defender. But most of the time, just a little bit of hesitation, and he would pull up. And he hit him from the top of the circle. He hit him from the wing, from the corner. Pretty much, he had the green light anywhere he went, and he really was the difference maker for Washington and Lee. Clayton Murtha scoring just under 17 points per game entering this contest was another huge performer for the Generals. He was just 1 point behind Kleinlein with 21 points, 8 rebounds, matching his season average there on the boards. Murtha with 7 of 12 from the field, a couple more with 14 for the Generals in France and Devin Kearns. And that does it for their players in double figures. 9 points for Sherwood, George, Douglas, and McMillan with 3 respectively. Himmelberg with 2, and then Acio with 2 later in the game in garbage time on that attempted alley-oop from the sideline pass from Himmelberg, as a matter of fact. So some effective play from Washington and Lee. And like I said, they had this well in hand for most of the contest. The only time it really got scary for the Generals was at the beginning of that second half. Murtha, I mentioned, with 8 rebounds. Sherwood with 8 boards, all defensive rebounds for the Generals. France with a 7 rebound performance to go with his 14 points. Kleinlein and Douglas 5 rebounds as well. Some notable stats there. And let's make our way to the Pacers here, because I think this was there are some good things to be found in this performance, although they didn't play nearly an entire 2-half contest at their optimum ability, much less an entire half of play. But that stretch, 5 or 6 minutes to begin the second half, was the sharpest this team has played all season. And if that's something that you can take from this, if steadily as the season goes on, if your best gets better, that typically is a good thing in terms of sustaining your good for the span of an entire game. So if the Pacers are going to have stretches like that, as long as they play their good throughout most of the game and they can find a 6 or 7 minute stretch where they play their best, that's going to be very promising for them going forward. So leading the way, as we mentioned, for the Pacers with 25 is Nate Strother. He ended up 4 of 11 from 3, hit those 3 consecutive three-pointers coming out of halftime to really fuel the spark there that the Pacers had in the second half. Second in scoring on the team is Sam Johnson with 14. He finished 3 of 8 from 3. So a clear theme here. The guys that hit three-point shots were the ones scoring for the Pacers. And, of course, those are their 2 biggest volume shooters. Strother and Johnson easily attempt the most three-pointers of anyone on the team. So they had 11 and 8 attempts, respectively, compared to 4 was the most by any other player. But if you're hitting your shots, you're going to continue to be called upon by Coach Claude Shields, and you're going to get opportunities to score, which is exactly what happened for these guys. And Strother's really is is the amazing thing. He scored over a point per minute of play. He had 25 points in 22 minutes on 17 shots. That's very efficient scoring for Nate Strother, the all-conference player just a year ago. Johnson with 14, as I mentioned. Chris Thomas with 10 points and 5 rebounds. Entering today's contest, he's the leading scorer and rebounder for your Pacers. 10 points also for Trey McLean in 13 minutes of play. A few of those were down the stretch. Against the Generals bench players, but he actually played some pretty relevant minutes toward the beginning of the game and has increased his minutes total as the season has gone on. So evidently McLean has been very impressive in workouts and practices, enough to garner Coach Shields' trust in earning more minutes. Terry Rogers with 7 points, the senior in 22 minutes of play. I mean, really just the grittiest guy on the court anytime this team plays. There's not much else that needs to be said for that, as he just wills his way to some points. He wills his way to the basket. He really is the emotional leader of this Pacers team. So decent performance for him. Comparatively, not his best performance, but 7 points. 5 rebounds for Rodgers. Just 2 assists, which is a bit uncharacteristic. As well as 3 of 6 from the free throw line, 50%, a little low for him. And then 2 points apiece for Tyquan Nolan and Corey Anderson. Nolan, just 7 minutes of play, was 1 of 2 from the field, also a rebound to go with it. And then Corey Anderson got in foul trouble early on, only played 13 minutes, ended up with 4 personal fouls, had to be benched, of course, because 1 more and he would have been disqualified. So 2 points, 2 rebounds for Corey Anderson, and that rounds out the scoring for the Pacers. An odd stat to see down the line here. Ryan Emfinger in 19 minutes of play, not a single point scored for the Pacers. 0 of 6 from the field. 4 of those misses were from 3-point range. 3 rebounds. A couple of steals for Emfinger. I mean, overall, a pretty standard effort for Emfinger, but a couple of, his shots just not really falling. I think the Pacers really prioritized getting other guys the shots. As I mentioned, Strother and Johnson were hitting, so they kept going to those guys. And then Thomas, of course, is a staple offensively, so he was going to get his shots as well. So a very odd sight in a 0-point performance for Ryan Emfinger, 3rd on the team in scoring entering this contest. Jalen Vincent, 13 minutes of play, 3 assists, so he leads the team in assists for the contest. But, there's kind of a good and bad there. Well, the good news is he led the team in assists. The bad news is 3 was the number that was going to lead the Pacers in assists tonight. And that's a very low number for a team lead. So, not a lot of assists for the Pacers. Of course, they had a decent bit of second chance points in there, and a lot of their points in transition involved, a Terry Rodgers or a Sam Johnson simply going coast to coast on the inbound pass to complete the play. The Pacers finding some ways to score without necessarily moving the ball quickly around the perimeter and finding open men. And then, all the other guys that played, Dakota King, Maurice Kennedy, Willie Herring, Sam Arnold, Ben Brower, and DeAndre Richardson, also scoreless on this one, although most of them only able to get a shot attempt or 2 up late in the game. So some good, some bad, some very, very good for Washington and Lee as we look at the stats here. And a 93-70 win on the road for the Generals of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. And that brings the Pacers, who have played now 6 games against non-conference ODAC opponents, that brings them to 3-3, which, all things considered, as tough as the ODAC is as a conference to play in, well, I think Claude Shields would be pretty happy with that going into USA South play. So hopefully they'll be able to clean it up. And like I said, it starts right away. They play on the 6th, the 9th, and the 13th on the road in conference from here on out, as we've got Coach Claude Shields sitting down with us. And we'll get him a mic. So, all right, Coach. So, kind of a spirited effort for the team coming out of halftime. I think that was the high point and the best that they've played all season for that short little stretch, 4 or 5 minutes. Unable to put the entire game together, much less an entire half there in the second. What did you think were the keys from your perspective?
Yeah, it's very tough to play a game after a break when the other teams played a few. They played 2 already, had a tournament, and kind of get that rust off, that Christmas spirit and all that food. And so that we talked about that. We tried to really push them in practice, but you can't, as try as you might, you can't replicate a game in outside competition. You can go really hard, you can run a lot of sprints. And so I thought we got through that in the first half. Obviously not the first half we wanted, but then to fight all the way back and cut to 4, I think was a lesson for us that, with how we have the potential to shoot the ball, we're never out of a game if we just have the belief that we can get back in it. And once we cut it back to 4. I'll have to go back and watch the film. I know they hit a bunch of shots in a row to really push it out, but they're a really good team, a really, really good team that should contend for the ODAC, and they were the much better team tonight, that's for sure.
So this might be an interesting question for you, and probably something that you don't get much about your teams. So you guys shoot a lot of three-point shots. Often in games, there's not a lot defenses can do if three-point shooters are hitting. So coming out of the second half, it seemed like that's what was happening for your guys, and then enter Andy Kleinlein, who hit 5 of 6 from deep. How demoralizing is that?
Yeah, you can see it on both ends. So that second half is a great example of what that looks like. When we made them, they were demoralized, right? And then when they made them, we freaked out, because usually teams don't do that to us.
Right.
They made 10 on 19 attempts. That's really freaking good. Especially when it's really hard for teams to come into our gym. It's a little bit smaller and whatnot, but they shot it really, really well. And so the frustrating part is we knew he could shoot it. That was a scouting report on him. And, I don't know if we didn't believe it or what. That was, that kid had a really, really good game. He was having a really good year. So, you can't let teams shoot 56%, especially when it's 53% from three.
Well, I said before you came on, I said it's not often you see a guy who plays as many minutes and takes as many shots as Kleinlein shoot 88% in a single game. And I thought it was interesting that most of his attempts weren't even on set pieces. They weren't doing much to find him and get him open from three. A lot of the times, he did it from the corner, from the wing, from up at the top of the circle. He would just catch it and be 1v1 with his defender and just, make eye contact, pull up, and it was there. Was that something that you guys didn't necessarily expect? I guess scouting him as a shooter, you may have prepared more for, they're going to get him some screens to get him open, that sort of thing. Yeah, they run the triangle offense. You didn't really see that tonight because they completely got out of what they wanted to do and just were trying to force feed it inside. And they ran on us a little bit more than we were expecting. We were averaging about 9 or 10 more possessions per game, and I think our guys just maybe heard that and thought they weren't going to push it down our throat, and they really did. I was very impressed with that, and they played our way. They beat us at our game, which is an extremely humbling thing. So, a lot of his were in transition, not off set pieces. They don't run much stuff for him. They wanted to pound it into Murtha, who, may be the ODAC Player of the Year this year. He was a Rookie of the Year last year. So, a really good team that you got to be ready to go for. And when they're playing like that, I told the team afterwards, even if we had played a really good game, we could have lost, especially with how they played today. It's a compliment to us. Teams are ready to play us. They're pumped to play us, which means we've done something, but at the same time, it's really frustrating. We can't get over that hump. We've got to then raise our level, our effort level, our execution level, which we're not doing right now, which is something that we got to work on. But the good news is, and I'm rambling just like I did with the team in the locker room, is that we get to reset. Non-conference play is over. We get Greensboro on Wednesday, 3 straight road games, so maybe that'll do us well. Yeah, so I mentioned before you sat down, you guys fly into USA South Conference play at Greensboro on the 6th, at Piedmont on the 9th, at Averett on the 13th. Coming out of this, you guys now 5-6 in non-conference play, 3-3 against ODAC opponents. So that was intentional. You guys, tried to play tough ODAC teams at home. What are your thoughts? And I guess if you can find the silver lining in this game and otherwise in non-conference play, how prepared do you feel like you guys are? I feel completely unprepared, but at the same time, I feel very excited that I would probably rather as much as I hate losing and how much I hate losing big, I'd rather lose by 23 and go into conference play than win by 23. Sure. Without a doubt, just because we're going to have their attention tomorrow and we'll have it Monday and Tuesday. Now, that doesn't mean we'll go in there and win on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll play better. So I think that's the biggest silver lining, is that we're going to have their attention. They know that how they've been playing doesn't result in wins or really even close games. And so we've got to figure it out. We've got to have we had some guys who were struggling. It was nice to see Nate get his confidence back a little bit. But we got to put it all together. And so the exciting part for us is that it's still January, still early January. We got to go try to steal a few on the road, one of those 3, I think. And then hopefully that gives us some confidence and some a head of steam going into, because I think if we're one of those teams where if we can get in the conference tournament, we can win it. We have the ability to. And I think last year's team might have been a little different. We competed for the regular season championship, but we really didn't. We got the most out of that group that we could. This team's deeper, and hopefully we can show that in conference play. Sure thing. And maybe this was a question more suited for prior to this contest. Any New Year's resolutions for this team?
we might need some now. Maybe not get out-rebounded would be one. But, I thought comparing today to Farmville, both results that we didn't really like up there, but they fought hard. I mean, they didn't quit today. There's some times when I was very frustrated, but I'm excited about this group, and hopefully the New Year's resolution will be to go get some road wins. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
There you go.
Got a lot to choose from right now. My mind's racing.
All right, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Aaron.
Head coach Claude Shields of your William Peace University Pacers following a 93-70 loss here at home at the Herm. Washington and Lee comes in and gets their first true road win of the season. So the Pacers will enter USA South Conference play with a 5-6 record in non-conference play. Granted, 6 of those contests against Old Dominion Athletic Conference opponents, which is a nationally heralded conference for its men's basketball teams. So some tough competition has been here at the Herm so far this season, and we'll send the guys out on the road. I mentioned this Wednesday, the 6th of January, they're at Greensboro. Then the 9th, they are at Piedmont, and then on the 13th, they are at Averett. We will return here to the Pacer Sports Network for a doubleheader. The men's and women's teams playing Covenant College on January 15th. That's a Saturday. But until then, wish the guys luck. Go Pacers. And thanks for joining us. For everybody here at the Pacer Sports Network, I'm Darren Vaught. 93-70, your final score of the Generals. Take one at home from your William Peace Pacers. Have a good night.